thank you very much. My name is Bill Stark. I'm the LeaderGov. Tim Finbert's with me today. Veronica Schneer is with me today from LeaderGov. And we're really glad you're taking a few minutes out of your day to invest in yourself as a leader and also your team. And this topic we're going to touch on today is accountability. You all probably know that by now because you registered for this, but talk about accountability both for you as a leader, but also as a team participant. And go ahead and chat if you haven't. I would love to see a few more chats on where are you from? Let us know what city and what state you're from. That would be kind of cool to see. And if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and rename yourself as well. So we're going to get in a breakout group later, and it'll be really nice to have your city and everything there. So yeah, you can chat where you're from. Yeah, we got a bunch of them coming in. Thank you. Okay, so we got West Palm. We got El Paso County. I take it that's El Paso, Texas. Pedro from Clark County, Las Vegas, Austin, Valdosta. Justin's from Valdosta. Thomas is from, a bunch of folks there. William County Fire Marshals in Virginia. It's good to have y'all. William County, Prince William County. Ashland, Ohio. Kim, it's good to see you. Valdosta, Lewiston, Idaho, Clearwater, Florida. Los Lunas, New Mexico. Wow. Albemarle, North Carolina, El Paso, Pinellas Park, Columbia, Missouri. Wow, we're all over the place. This is awesome. We're really glad y'all are here. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks for telling us kind of where you're from so we can get a sense for what part of the country you all are in. Today, we're going to do really just four things. We're going to talk about accountability for a couple minutes, kind of an overview. We're going to go through a little bit of facilitation on kind of what's our role as leaders in accountability, what's our team's role, and why don't we hold each other accountable more often? We're going to talk about that. That's what we call the learning section. And then we're going to ask you to think about what you've heard today and make a plan. Actually, think about how you might want to put what you've heard today into action with your team in your local government there. And then, of course, we're going to give you some ideas and thoughts for what you can do next week, next month with this material. So that's kind of where we're going today. I did want to give you some really, really good news. LeaderGov has launched a new teamwork support product for you, and it costs nothing. It costs zero. It's free. So if you go to our website, leadergov.com, you can download a PDF, a planner. We call it a playbook or a planner or a field guide, and that's a picture of the planner on the left. And each month in this field guide book is a different teamwork topic. And you see there it says April, accountability. That's what we're talking about today. Next month is May. You're invited to come back next month, and we're going to have a similar workshop on how to keep your team motivated and inspired. That's next month. You see June is innovation, July communication, and so forth. So every month, we're going to give you no charge a workshop just like this today on a different topic that you can grow as a leader, but also so your team can grow in your team. So the Teamwork Summit is all about creating a successful team environment where you work in your local government. Inside this field guide, this planner, are some QR codes to little videos that you can play at a team meeting, some questions you can talk to your team about accountability. And you can go ahead and download this right off our website. It's a PDF. It's a pretty big PDF now. It's like 150 pages. So be sure you got paper in your printer. But we would love for you to download this and use it. If you want to buy a printed copy of this, like a spiral bound copy, you can, and we'll ship them to you. They're $20. So, for a nominal fee, you can get a bound copy of this Teamwork Summit. But we want to let you know about that. That's our only commercial today, really. We're not going to bombard you with too many more commercials unless Tim makes me here before we get off the call today. Hey, thank you all for taking a little survey. We asked you a question when you registered. We said, how well does your local government hold teams accountable? How well does your local government leaders hold their teams accountable? 36% of you said, yep, pretty often. We got it going on. 36%. 54 said, some. Yeah, yep, some. And then 7.2% said rarely. So obviously, many of you are here today because you want to get better at this skill. You want to maybe look for ways to have your teams hold each other accountable, and obviously get better at holding the people on your teams accountable. So thank you for doing that. I want to do a chat real quick, and Tim, maybe you can read some of these to us. Before we get too much further into this topic of accountability, I just want you to chat real quick. What's your challenge with accountability? Or maybe what are other leaders in your local government? What's their challenge with accountability? Is it you don't do it, or you don't like doing it, or you do it and it backfires every time you do it? Like what's the hassle here? Why are you on this Zoom workshop today? What's the rub? And so we would love to hear some of your answers as they come in on chat. I don't know, Tim, if you can see in.
Got a couple coming in: passing blame, dealing with underperformers in a reactive sense versus a proactive sense. Yeah, that's one of our challenges for sure. We're not doing accountability. We're not getting ahead of the curve. Lack of matrix to define what is expected. So it's difficult to hold folks accountable when we don't have clear expectations set. For sure, that's not my job. Here, measurement. We lack measurement and timeliness for sure. Sometimes our structure is not conducive to good accountability. Selective application. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, right? Leaders who don't apply accountability evenly throughout their team. Big problem. Selecting a universal standard across the entire team. Some staff see accountability as a threat to their jobs. Absolutely. Difficult and uncomfortable conversations. Bill and I were talking about that this morning, and we talk a lot about DISC in our training. And some personalities, mine, for example, I'm very uncomfortable with conflict, and sometimes holding people accountable is conflict. So yeah, some of us definitely struggle with that. Yeah, Bill, I think that's a good cross section. Kind of confirms what we suspected.
Yeah, thank you all for sharing that. Really, really do appreciate it. We're going to switch over real quick. And the way we're doing this workshop today, by the way, is kind of similar to the way we do our leadership workshops. We'll share for just a few minutes here. We want to engage you in the process, but we're going to have a breakout, probably, Tim, at the bottom of the hour, maybe even before, where you all can actually talk about your challenges with accountability with 3 or 4 other people on this Zoom today. And so we want you to interact. We want you to share with other people. This is sort of the way we do our leadership workshop. So just want to give you a heads up on that. So Tim, I'll pass it over to you. I know we want to talk a little bit about what's our role as a leader in accountability, what's our team's role in accountability, and then what are some of the reasons why we don't hold each other accountable?
Right. So we always want to think about what our objective is whenever we are together talking about a subject. And obviously, I think we all agree accountability is a valuable leadership and management tool. And hopefully for all of us, we'll be thinking today, kind of raise our self-awareness about situations we've been in where maybe we weren't as effective as we would like to be. And so what we want to do is raise your awareness level so we can be more consistent as leaders. Leadership is about consistency, and certainly accountability requires consistency. So hopefully we'll poke you a little bit. So we want to give you first the leader's perspective on this. Again, what do I need to do? What are the requirements? You all touched on some of these. This idea of setting clear expectations right up front. Clarity and instruction, dates and expectations is clearly one of those things that I need to always pay attention to. That's my responsibility with my team, is to be very clear. Now, the problem with clarity, and we're going to talk about the other side, the receiver of that, is I think I might be clear, but does my team think I'm clear? We do a lot of 360 work. And Bill, accountability is always one of those topics where our teams, if we ask for feedback, sometimes they'll say, you may think you're clear, but we're confused. When you speak, the way you communicate creates confusion. So I think we would all agree this idea of being clear communicators is important. holding accountability sessions, right? Leadership is about intention, finding the time to have those conversations with our team about, I set this expectation, where are we? As leaders, we certainly don't want to micromanage, but we have a role in this to stay engaged with our team members and making sure that I'm clear about, here's where we are, here's where I expected you to be. Maybe you're ahead, maybe you're behind, but staying engaged with your team, absolutely. You might want to do that in private or in group settings, depending on the project or the situation, but you have to find the right cadence to stay in communication with your team. Don't play favorites. I think this came up in the chat. We have our go-to people, right? And sometimes we're hardest on the ones that we love most. And I think that happens with accountability too. We have our favorites, our go-to people, and we have got a relationship with them. It's easier for us to hold them accountable. Those who maybe struggle or maybe lower performers that we don't have as much relationship with, perhaps, sometimes we don't do as much accountability. So we need to think about, am I being equal in the way I'm expressing accountability with all of my team members? Timely, there certainly is an element here of responsiveness that's necessary for you as a leader. My management experiences, typically problems don't get better over time, they get worse. And inevitably I would wait too long. So, make sure we're saying the right thing. We're having those engagements, those follow-ups, those conversations, those accountability conversations on a timely basis. Don't wait. Find that interaction sooner than later. And of course, communication typically is about tone and posture and nonverbal communication. When we are having those meetings, am I giving the people my full attention? Or am I thinking about something else and I have a very distracted nature? I know we're all busy, but if we want to do accountability well, we've got to give people our full undivided attention. So just some things for those of you who are on the call that actually lead a team. This is kind of the leader's perspective on this, Bill. Kind of things to keep, things to think
I
about.
would like to just maybe as a quick exercise, and we'll go to this next slide, Tim, for you to, I want you to share this next slide, but I would love to hear from the group that's on the Zoom today. What would you add to this list? What do you see that is the leader's role in accountability, and maybe some do's and don'ts that from your perspective that you've seen? So let us hear from you. And Veronica and I are going to go back and take all of the things that you chat and put it into a document. We'll make it available to you if you would like. But we'd like to get the collective wisdom of everybody on the call here today. So, yeah, Tim, why don't you talk about the team members?
Yeah, we know that accountability has to be a two-way street, and we know that can be difficult at times. We have team members, again, that are very seasoned. We have new team members coming in. But certainly our team members have a responsibility in this relationship of accountability. And so here's some things that you may be a team member or you may be a leader. You might want to share this back with some of your team members and be very clear that around accountability, these are your expectations. Seek clarification. I need to make sure that my team knows if there's a lack of understanding, they need to voice their concern right up front. Sometimes in those conversations, maybe when we're giving that assignment, we're in a rush, we're in too big a hurry, and we don't really get confirmation that everyone understands what the task is. And frankly, some of the people on our teams don't engage very well. They sit back. They're not going to really challenge you when they probably should with a question because they don't want to appear that maybe they don't understand. So we want our team members to seek clarification from us, create an environment, a culture where that's just expected. So that requires you to kind of have that conversation that I want I want you to seek clarification if you have a misunderstanding. Do what you say as a team member, kind of trust. Bill and I do a lot of work in the area of trust, and accountability is kind of built on this foundation of trust. And doing what we say we're going to do is the best way to build trust. And so, as a team member, we should set that expectation that when you make a commitment as part of this obligation, I'm going to hold you accountable to it, and I expect you to do your part of this project. Do what you say you're going to do. Consider there might be some distractions in the way that we might need to manage as a team member. I might need to report those to my manager when there are distractions, things that are keeping me from performing, kind of holding me back, kind of a roadblock. How am I going to communicate that with my team? Being open to getting feedback and being questioned. This is really high level stuff. Now we're kind of getting, Bill, into this next level stuff. Many of you have read Pat Lencioni, Dysfunctions of a Team. He kind of talks a lot about this idea of the highest level of accountability is peer-to-peer accountability. And what we really want is for team members holding each other accountable. That requires a lot of trust amongst team members. So as you think about your team, maybe just a quick check on, what is a level of trust between team members? Because for that to happen, they're going to have to be open to being challenged in some cases, not because I'm challenging your authority or your position or your responsibilities as a peer, but because I see something that you might not see and I want to make you aware of it. So being open to getting and giving feedback is really, really an important element. And this idea of courage, we think teams need more courage. We want team members who feel courageous, feel empowered to say what needs to be said. And, this idea of courage is something as leaders we want to encourage in our teams. And we really want to create an environment where our teams can be courageous in the way they hold each other accountable.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Tim. Here's the good part, right?
Yeah, here's the good part. Here's where we really want to engage you and maybe do another chat here. So, you saw in that survey that we did, there was a good number of group, about a third to almost half of the group said it's not perfect. There are some challenges in the area of accountability. So we want to dig into that a little bit. And this is where we're asking you to be maybe a little reflective in the way you're leading with your team. So if you are a team manager, a team leader, we've got a list here of some things: fear of confrontation, fear of damaged relationships, haphazard application of accountability, my fear of minimizing failure, hiding failure as a leader. That might be a bad reflection on me. So I might not want to use accountability as a tool in that way. Lack of skills as a leader. I might be a new leader. I might be a new supervisor. And quite frankly, I've just never done this before. And so it's very awkward for me. Leadership and management are skills that need to be practiced. So I might have a lack of skills. And this idea of playing favorites, we know that we have our go-to people, and that can be a problem. So here's the chat. Is there something here that you can relate to? That's something that you need to maybe be a little more intentional with, or maybe there's something else. Just chat it back out. We want you thinking about these things, because when we go into our breakout group, we really want you talking about what are some things I need to get better at. Maybe I'm pretty good at it, but I need to improve.
Yeah,
Or
Tim.
it's just an area that I haven't paid any attention to. Yeah, Bill.
Yeah, this minimized failure. I wanted to go back and just reiterate that real quick. I'm an eye on the disc, happy-go-lucky, jolly, outgoing, all that stuff. So when I see a problem, very often I will just minimize it and say, it's okay, it'll get better. When I see poor performance from an employee, sometimes I say, they're probably just having a tough day. Don't worry about it. I kind of minimize failure. And that's as Tim, as you were saying, that's in my personality. So I just wanted to clarify what we mean there by minimizing failure.
Yeah, we've got a couple of quick responses here, just some things to think about, kind of relating to, don't rush to respond, listen to your fullest. We talk about listening, and I think it's one of these really connective skills to being good at accountability is being a good listener. And sometimes we're in a big hurry. It's hard to slow down long enough to be a good listener. So making sure that my view of the failure to the team, to the work, is not just a personal preference on how it should be done or a reflection of my dislike of the team member, which causes me to hesitate. Yeah, we have all these personal biases, quite frankly. And, we may have a misunderstanding of how things should be done. And so this really requires us to dig deeper and have conversations with our team members to make sure we understand what the failure was, because it may not be I may think it was a failure as a leader, but it might have been a success that I just had the wrong perspective on. So yeah, lots of things. This is, if you start to dig down in this and think about situations where maybe your team struggled, and how did you do accountability on that particular scenario? I think it might uncover some things about your personality, the way you're leading, that you might need to pay attention to. So that's kind of the first half of the question. And then we've got a second half here, and this is for our team members, and this idea of, okay, from their perspective, peer-to-peer accountability, what are some things that I might, as a team member, need to pay attention to? Fear of confrontation with each other, right? Which gets back to, how well do we know each other? How long have we worked together? What does our relationship look like? This idea of damaging relationships. If I try to hold Bill accountable, is he going to take it the wrong way? And is it going to, create a very difficult work environment for Bill and I? Unclear roles and responsibilities. Again, this gets back to a good leader provides clarity in roles and responsibilities. But if I don't have that as a team member, it's going to be a problem, and it's going to show up on this idea of accountability. And as we said before, one of our desires is that a team member would say that there's not clarity on roles and responsibilities. So again, we want to create that environment where we're sure that we're getting that feedback from our team if that's happening. Lack of clarity in a project, same type of situation. I might have gotten clear expectations on the front end, but maybe things got a little bit sideways down the road. Low psychological safety. That's kind of a situation where it might feel risky to me to have this interaction because I'm uncomfortable in how it might turn out. And I have low psychological safety in the relationships with my peers. And this lack of a sense of empowerment. We hear this a lot on our teams, particularly in local government, that, I'm keeping my blinders on, I'm just paying attention to my work, and I'm not empowered as a team member to hold my other team members accountable. So all of these things contribute to why team members kind of are challenged in holding each other accountable. We'd love to hear some other ideas. What do you all think about this? What represents your team's hesitancy to hold each other accountable? Where are we challenged? See, Regina talked about fear of retaliation from the leaders, especially if they hold their favorites accountable. Absolutely.
Oh, Tim, I like what let's see, it keeps moving. Luke said, definitely minimize failure, partly because I know I have my own failings. So if I know I'm failing, how can I hold you accountable for doing something very similar? Wow, that's a good insight, Luke.
Yeah, peer pressure, certainly a big element in a team. That's where we've got to kind of change this culture where on our team we have peer pressure to hold each other accountable, not peer pressure to not hold each other accountable. Absolutely. Lack of trust on the teams. That's that foundational thing. I think for many of us, that's the conclusion we're probably going to come back to with our teams is there's probably some foundational trust work that needs to happen. That might be the remedy to getting us in a position where we could even talk about peer-to-peer accountability. Yep. You can show your vulnerability and weaknesses, must change the culture, 100%. Absolutely. Similar, Luke, who am I to judge? And I think this thing of judgment is tricky, right, Bill? Because when I hear the word judgment, it sounds like it's getting very personal. And I understand that. There's always this line that we've got to be very guarded with. But at the same time, if my heart is one of, I want to make the team better, and I want you to thrive, and I'm talking about a peer, Bill, you're my peer. I want you to thrive. I truly am saying this from a place of not judgment, but a place of desire for you to thrive. You know that, and I know that. I think we can have that accountability conversation. If you don't, and I don't, then I think it does become judgment very quickly. Yeah, in our past, there wasn't a consistency and accountability. Making the change is challenging since there's often a lack of trust on the team. Yeah, we're getting to this peeling back the onion idea here. Accountability is, it's an hour workshop, but it's actually much, much more complicated than that. It's what's underneath all these things, which should kind of direct us as leaders and as team members of what we need to really address.
Yeah, Tim, I like what Justin Jacobs, don't want to overstep my position. So some hesitancy to hold people accountable because maybe they don't report to me. This has got maybe more to do with that peer-to-peer accountability, which requires a culture. If there's psychological safety and we know we're not going to get our hands slapped and we have a culture of accountability, then we can hold each other accountable and not feel like we're overstepping our role. Yeah, that's good. Let's see. Well, Tim, I've got these breakout groups set up for us. we've covered kind of a good bit of topically a good bit here today, the leader's perspective, the team member's perspective, why we hold back. We really would like for you all now to, chat with other local government leaders. We're going to put you in groups of usually three. And so I think most of you in a couple of rooms, there are two. I may fix that real quick here, but we'll put you in groups. Tim, for how long should you think?
I think we should go for 12, 15 minutes, give everybody a chance to really have a great conversation. Get each person to share these three questions. Certainly introduce yourself. What areas do you or your team need to improve related to accountability? So kind of dig into it. Think about this, kind of make it personal. And then, what practical steps can you take? And this is where the work is, and where we like to kind of get some feedback from each other. Maybe share a story where you've been with a new team and there was some hesitancy. It's something you tried that worked well, something you tried that didn't work well. Share stories with each other. I think we can do during this time. So I think we go till maybe a quarter of.
Okay. All right. Very good. That sounds great. I've got three and three in a couple groups. There are four. In group 11, Justin and Christine, I'll put somebody else in your group because right now it's just the two of y'all. But we'll see y'all back in about 15 minutes. What's your challenge? What do you want to work on? How do you think you can create that culture of accountability? So introduce yourself and enjoy being with some other folks from around the country. When we come back, we'll have a few of you unpack some things that you heard from your peers. So talk to you in a minute. All right, everybody, if y'all wouldn't mind, please mute, unless we could do a mass mute, Tim, and then I can unmute myself. But looks like everybody's coming in now. We had a few people had things come up and couldn't stay in the group, but thank you all for taking some time to chat with each other. And I would love to just call on a couple of you. And well, let me ask you this first. If you would like to share something particular that you heard that was interesting to you, you can just use your little icons. There's a thing called reactions in the bottom there, and do a little like a raise hand. Y'all see the raise hand button there? Yeah, Tim Fulton. I see your hands raised. I'd love to hear from you, Tim. What do y'all talk about and how you doing?
Yes, so in my situation, one of my employees was actually in the room with me for a while. So
Wow.
yeah, she didn't pull any punches, but actually Wyatt joined us. My understanding, he's a lieutenant in the police department. But yeah, as Amy and I told him our situation, our challenges, he was telling us a real life situation that, yeah, seemed to be very challenging. So
Anything new or different y'all want to try, or?
yeah, I mean, I would like that we had more time, to explore, because Wyatt unfortunately got in late. But I'd like to hear more about, how he was dealing with this particular circumstance, because it was very similar to some of the things we have.
Was that was Wyatt, you said?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, go ahead, Wyatt. Lay it on us.
Sure. So my situation is such that I'm a new lieutenant to my position. I've been in for 6 months. Okay. I have a vehicle collision from an officer 10 months ago where he T-boned another vehicle due to running a red light. Prior administration, on the way out, getting ready to retire, didn't do it. So now it's fallen into my hands. Okay. No one likes to hold people accountable, right? The way I view it, the way my chief views it at our agency is sometimes you're taking care of the rest of the employees by holding the one accountable, because actions that aren't addressed or that are continually allowed can lead to future lawsuits later. When something really bad happens and you have someone, who has repeated conduct, and you and as administrator has not done anything in order to curve or correct or do anything to steer the ship, that opens everyone up in your agency for years to come if you didn't do anything to try to correct that action. So here I am, 10 months after the fact trying to hold this person accountable. And of course, what has always happened, you have people who work for you, very intelligent, very smart, because that's the people we want. And they will nitpick your policies, right? They want to know, why does it say and or why does it do this or that? So now, because he's unwilling to accept this, I have to do a hearing with a city council and a mayor over not whether or not I'm being fair and just with the punishment I'm handing out.
Wow.
So that's a situation I have.
Yeah.
I've kind of got it all figured out, and I've got, unfortunately, fortunately for me, a process that's been established for a really long time. And of course, we receive training over this through the state and KLEC, which is our Kentucky League of Cities, which helps us greatly with the legality, but also the understanding on the administrator part that in order to take care of all, you have to address the needs of one in order to have that blanketed protection.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bill, I would just like to open up to the group. When we find ourselves maybe in a new role, and there has been a lack of accountability on that team, we don't need a specific example. We've all experienced this, and yet, so we come into this position and we know we need to take action. How do we do that? How do we do this in a way that builds team morale, doesn't tear the team apart, but that we can kind of stick to our guns and do what we need to do? Who would chime in? Who's been in that scenario? Probably everyone on the call.
Yeah. Thomas, go ahead. You can unmute. Thomas, where are you from? Where are you coming from today?
Which Thomas?
There you go, Jarman. Yeah.
Oh, okay. There you go. You never know. I'm like going through scrolling through the list to see who the Thomases are. I'm from Prince William County, Virginia. I've been in that exact same situation. Matter of fact, I felt like my organization from the very beginning started placing me in roles or in station houses or medic units or truck companies with just that situation where stuff had to be fixed. I usually started by getting everybody together, establishing the clear expectations of departmental accountability. And then I began a couple of team exercises dealing with individual accountability, so that holding themselves individually accountable, and then holding peers accountable. Matter of fact, when we were in our micro group or breakout group, Anu had brought in both people, Ms. Jones and Anu, were just in those situations where they were inheriting stuff and having to hold additional people accountable down the line. So we actually had a good discussion about that, and they had some great feedback.
Nice. Yeah.
How long is that process for you, Thomas? How long did it take before you really got movement with the team? Just be honest.
Well, to be honest, I had to get a handle on some of that quickly. Because in a fire service type of role, similar to like law enforcement or police, I've got to be able to depend on the people that are around me, and they've got to be able to depend on me. And we're talking about, it's not like we have discretionary time to sit there and have a group kind of kumbaya session. We have to get that stuff hammered out pretty quickly. Because of the situation, at the very next minute, we could get the alarm sound and have to go handle it. One particular one I had somebody that was another alpha personality, and I was the new lieutenant, and they basically said, well, we were discussing a customer service issue, and they said, well, when you put on that lieutenant badge, that's how he started out. Basically, I'll show you, I'm going to take over this group discussion. And I said, you're absolutely correct. Because he goes, when you put on that lieutenant badge, you've got to be able to make the decisions. I said, you're absolutely right. You get to make the decisions on the next words out of your mouth.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, you try to build that cohesive environment, but when you have somebody that openly challenges that authority, you sometimes do need to lay down the hammer.
Yeah, Thomas, I appreciate that. I know I wanted to ask to Tim. I know we're running a little bit close on time here. It's to set some ground rules. And I think it was Demarius also said in the chat, if you're a new manager, hey, we got to set the ground rules here. We're going to be held accountable. I'm going to hold you accountable. And let's just have that conversation up front. Let's do it early. And let's be very clear about what the deal is. Here's what we want you all to do. We've got kind of a suggestion or homework assignment, if you will, for you all coming up. And this book that I showed you earlier, our Summit book, which you can download at no cost. In the month of April, we actually have questions you can ask your team. How well do we hold each other accountable? That's a question you could talk about with your team. Do we always do what we say? That's another teamwork question you can ask your team next time you meet with them. And in what ways can we improve our accountability to those we serve? So in your Summit Field Guide book, which you can download, those questions are in there. There's a video in there. In fact, we do a podcast every month for every topic that we're going to go through in this book. And I want to share just a couple of minutes of this podcast with you on accountability. So every month when you have this book, you can either buy it from us for $20 or download one PDF. A podcast is going to come with it that you can share with your team. And these podcasts are usually 20 minutes long. So I just want to share a couple minutes of this on accountability with you.
There's two things that we miss when we talk about accountability. The first thing is we've got to tie it to something bigger than performance. We've got to tie it back to why it matters. Why does it matter for this organization? If I'm your manager, why are you, what you're doing matter for this team, for me, for supporting the organization? So there's a need there. There's a value you're creating by hitting these things that we're talking about being accountable to. We often, when we build out org charts for organizations, we force ourselves to put a mission for every seat. Because if this seat doesn't exist, then the mission for this seat doesn't happen. So what is the mission? And so often, myself included, we take the time to write that mission, but we forget to go back to it over and over and over and say, well, if this seat is failing, if the tasks, roles, metrics, and the seat are failing, that's hurting the mission of this seat, which is hurting the mission of the organization. So tying it back to this purpose and this idea of something greater and how your contribution affects the performance of the overall organization. If we can't tell that story, then we're not setting up anybody for success. The second thing is my whole mentality for accountability is kind of the same as my mentality for how do we lead people? How do we manage people is probably a better, we're right in the gray space between lead and manage, but we use the acronym CAR. We want people to drive their CAR, and CAR stands for clarity, autonomy, and results. And I think the place where we most often go wrong, myself included, learned this the hard way, is in that clarity. It's my job as the leader, my job as the manager, to give the person clarity on not just what they're accountable to or accountable for, but what resources do they have? What decision-making ability do they have? What budget do they have? And once they have the clarity on all those things, then they have autonomy. But within the autonomy, you then pass on the responsibility that if there's something you're not sure and you're not clear on, you've got to come ask me. Because what happens in between clarity and autonomy for most people is what we call clarity guilt. And I didn't quite give you everything you need, and you didn't quite know, and you didn't even know to come ask what you didn't know. And so how can I really hold you accountable to the results if I didn't do my job to set you up for success?
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Most of the time when we're struggling with accountability, most of it we can point back to the leader or manager. And then we get to the results part. And if we're clear on what's expected up front and what they have to work with in between, then we can have clear conversations about the results. And this is where we've got to infuse the humanity into it, right? But there's a conversation, and let's have a conversation based in reality. We said the target was 10. We're at 7. Bill, what happened? Why do you think that is? Or, something going on in your personal life Did we not give you the resources? You know, is there something happening in the market we need to know? Your team there's two things that
Yeah, so we wanted to just give you all a kind of a snippet of the podcast that's available now at leadergov.com. You can share that podcast with your team. You can forward it to them. Tim and I also in the summit planner book, we do a little 4-minute video on accountability that you can show your team at your next team meeting. And Tim, if I did this right, I think this might be just a snippet of the video. Probably won't show the whole thing, but wanted you to.
Bill, we're not pulling through audio right now.
Well, you know? Oh, no audio?
Yeah.
Okay, I can hear it here on my end. Anybody else not hear the audio or hear it? Good. No audio. Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
This is Tim.
All right. Oh, you heard that? Okay.
They didn't want to hear that. They didn't want to hear me talk
All right.
about accountability. And today we're going to talk about this, both for the team members and
Audio?
for the manager. Hopefully you've had a chance to discuss and maybe define what accountability means to your team. But if you haven't yet, please pause the video and have that conversation and then join back with us as we kind of break this down for you.
Yeah, Tim, that's on page 39 and 40 in your field guide. So go ahead and do that. What I'd like to do for just a second is talk about the employee or the team member's role in accountability. And there are 3 ideas I want.
So you can see what we're doing there with this video is we're giving you a 4-minute video that you can play at your next team meeting, 4 minutes. And it's just something you can play it on your phone. You can play it on your computer. But basically, we're teeing up this idea of accountability from your perspective. You're part of it, but also we're encouraging the team to hold each other accountable. But that's what's in that video, and you can watch that video again if you download the field guide. You'll see this little QR code here that will take you to the video, which you can use again with your team. So. I guess, Tim, the other thing we wanted to share real quick, if you've not had a chance to download, go ahead and take a picture of that on your phone. You can also go to leadergov.com and you can get a link to download this field guide.
Or better yet, teamworksummit.com.
Yeah.
That's directly to.
Yep. Teamworksummit.com you can go to. You can snap a picture of it right now. Or go to leadergov.com, our website. And the other thing we wanted to tell you is, as I mentioned, next month, May, we're going to do another workshop on motivation and inspiration. So how can you inspire and motivate your team? Some people say you can't motivate people, but you can inspire them. So we're going to have a debate about that. And how do we do that? So in our field guide for next month, the topic is motivation and inspiration. We're going to have a workshop just like we did today. No cost. You're welcome to come. Tell your friends and go ahead and download this playbook, this field guide, and make it available to other leaders in your local government. We'd love for as many people wants to download it. You're welcome to. Tim, what did I miss there, buddy?
I think you've got it. Yeah, I think that last slide is our contact information. If there's anything we can do for you, please let us know. We would love to serve you in any way that we can. Thank you so much for your participation. We ran a couple minutes over, but thank you all so much. Have a great rest of the Friday, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you all so much. Bye now.
Any questions or thoughts, feel free to chat us. We'll be here for a minute and hang out if you want to hang on. Otherwise, good to see everybody. Kimber, good to see you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
You too.
Yeah. All right. Anu, good to see you, man.
Good seeing you guys too. Thanks,
Yeah.
Bill. Thanks,
Yeah.
Tim. Appreciate all y'all do.
You bet. Thank you, Regina, for participating.